Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Vladimir Putin says Russia in favor of ceasefire, but nuances exist. Thanks Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi for efforts to resolve the Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian President Zelensky calls Putin's statement manipulative. China, Russia back Iran, saying nuclear talks should be based on mutual respect, emphasize the need to end all unlawful unilateral sanctions. And India celebrates the festival of colours, Holi. The spring festival symbolizes the victory of good over evil and marks the end of the winter season. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Thursday that Russia supported a US proposal for a ceasefire in Ukraine in principle, but sought a number of clarifications and conditions that appear to rule out a quick end to the fighting. Putin's heavily qualified support for the US ceasefire proposal looked designed to signal goodwill to Washington and open the door to further talks with US President Donald Trump. Both Moscow and Washington now cast the conflict as a deadly proxy war that could have escalated into the Third World War.
First of all, I would like to start by saying thanks to US President Donald Trump for his attention to settlement in Ukraine. We agree with the proposal to cease hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that this cessation would be such that it would lead to a long-term peace and would eliminate the original causes of this crisis.
The Russian leader wondered how a ceasefire would impact the situation in Kursk, where Putin on Wednesday donned a camouflage uniform, extremely rare for the former KGB officer to visit a command post. Putin said many crucial details needed to be sorted out and any agreement must address the root causes of the conflict.
But who will give order to cease hostilities? And what will be the price of such orders? Do you imagine almost 2,000 kilometers of front line? Who will figure out who and when in the field of 2,000 kilometers had broken a ceasefire? And then who will blame whom in violation of this agreement? These are many of the questions that need to be analyzed carefully by both sides. That is why the idea itself is right, and we absolutely support it. But there are questions we should discuss.
US President Donald Trump said on Thursday that his special envoy Steve Witkoff was engaged in serious talks with the Russians in Moscow on the US proposal, which Kiev has already agreed to. Earlier, the US agreed to resume weapons supplies and intelligence sharing with Ukraine after Kiev said at talks in Saudi Arabia that it was ready to support a ceasefire proposal. While Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told Russian President Vladimir Putin in a phone call that the kingdom remains committed to facilitating dialogue and supporting a political solution to the Ukrainian crisis. While Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday that Russia's Vladimir Putin is preparing a rejection of a ceasefire proposal, but is scared to say this directly to US President Donald Trump.
We have all now heard very predictable and highly manipulative words from Putin in response to the idea of a ceasefire at the front. He is in fact preparing a rejection at present. Putin is of course scared to tell President Trump directly that he wants to continue this war, that he wants to kill Ukrainians. That's why in Moscow they are imposing upon the idea of a ceasefire these conditions so that nothing happens at all, or so that it cannot happen for as long as possible.
Foreign ministers of the G7 nations sought to show a united front in Canada on Thursday after 7 weeks of rising tensions between US allies and President Donald Trump over his pending of foreign policy on Ukraine and imposition of tariffs. The group of 7 ministers from Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States, along with the European Union, convened in the Quebec Hills U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio briefed his colleagues on talks on Tuesday with Ukraine in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where Kiev said it was ready to support a 30-day ceasefire deal. But officials said that the news of ambiguous comments by Russian President Vladimir Putin had broken during the session, leaving delegates unclear as to where things stood. Member nations emphasized the need for robust and credible security guarantees so that a ceasefire would be respected and that Ukraine would be able to deter and defend itself against future aggression. US President Donald Trump has threatened a retaliatory 200% tariff on imports of alcoholic drinks from European Union unless the EU removes its 50% tariff on American whiskey. Trump's threat came in response to a European Union plan to impose tariffs on American whiskey and other products next month, which itself is a reaction to Trump's 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports that took effect on Wednesday. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security Markus Sefcovic said that the countermeasures will be introduced in 2 steps starting on April 1st and fully in place on April 13th. Laurent Saint Martin, France's Minister Delegate for Foreign Trade and French nationals abroad, said that France will not yield to the US threat of imposing tariffs on EU alcohol products and is determined to fight back alongside its EU partners. The G7 meeting came just as Trump's sweeping 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports came into effect on Wednesday, prompting immediate retaliation from major US trading partners. The European Union and Canada swiftly unveiled billions of dollars in counter tariffs. Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly said on Wednesday that she would be on the offensive at the G7 and coordinate a response with the Europeans to put pressure on the US. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said that China gained from the trade war Washington was waging on its allies, while France's Prime Minister Francois Bayrou said EU countries will not yield to Trump's threats of steep tariffs on wine and champagne imports.
Donc, eh ben, il faut que
We need all governments, not only France but also Italy, which produces a lot of wine and liquor, and Spain, which produces a lot of wine and liquor. And if European nations are on their own, they won't stand a chance. And that's why we need to build European solidarity in face of this. I have no doubt that we too can show our will and our resistance, but we can't yield to these kinds of threats.
US President Donald Trump further reiterated his desire to annex Greenland for international security. During a meeting in the Oval Office with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump expressed confidence that the United States would annex Greenland.
Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially to
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
China and Russia have backed Iran after the US demanded nuclear talks with the country. Beijing and Moscow said that dialogue should only resume once sanctions on Tehran are lifted. The meeting between the foreign ministers of the 3 countries was held in Beijing days after Iran rejected US offer to resume talks. In 2018, Donald Trump pulled the US out of the Iran nuclear deal, whose signatories include UK, Russia, China and Germany. The treaty was originally signed in 2015 under the Barack Obama administration. Iran had agreed to scale down its nuclear program in return of lifting of international sanctions.
China and Russia welcome Iran's reaffirmation of the peaceful nature of its nuclear program, its commitment to not seeking nuclear weapons, and its pledge to fully comply with the NPT and its comprehensive safeguards agreement obligation. The 3 parties stress that all countries must refrain from actions that hinder the IAEA's professional, objective, and impartial fulfillment of its mandate.
And next we take a look at other stories making news across the world. Varieties of carnations are set to captivate visitors during Colombia's annual flower festival. The fair aims to showcase new varieties developed through techniques such as hybridization, as well as production methods utilized by Colombian farmers. Cherry blossoms are in full bloom at a Tokyo aquarium, with the animals swimming among the pink flowers, much to the visitors' delight. The aquarium was transformed into a Japanese-style garden as pink fishes swam in tanks decorated with cherry blossom branches. The full moon turned into dusky red over much of North and South America as it moved into the shadow of the Earth in a rare total lunar eclipse. The eclipse's totality lasted 66 minutes, with a partial eclipse preceding and following the main event. European Union leaders announced a 4.7 billion euro, $5.10 billion that is, this investment package during a visit to South Africa on Thursday. The European leaders said the visit was an opportunity to strengthen close ties with Africa's most advanced economy, coinciding with the latter's presidency of the Group of 20 nations, which the US officials have so far largely snubbed. The EU trip was an opportunity to ameliorate ties which soared when South Africa refused to outright condemn Russia's Vladimir Putin for invading Ukraine.
We are together announcing an investment package to mobilize 4.7 billion euro in South Africa, and this is in both our interest. It includes funding for the clean energy transition, but also funding to boost vaccine manufacturing. South Africa wants to protect the health of its people as well as your autonomy and your local industries. We Europeans want to diversify some of our most critical supply chains, and we know that viruses know no borders. So that is what I call a true mutual interest.
On to South America now. Healthcare workers in Chile ended a nationwide 72-hour strike on Thursday, calling on the government to improve security at primary care centers and increase funding. The strike concluded with a march through Santiago, the capital, where hundreds of healthcare professionals gathered outside the National Palace to protest rising violence against workers. Gabriela Flores, president of the National Confederation of Health Officials, warned that more drastic actions could follow in April if the demands are not met. Portugal's President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa announced a snap legislative vote for May 18th after Prime Minister Luis Montenegro resigned over a conflict of interest dispute. The Prime Minister presented the confidence motion last week after the opposition threatened to establish a parliamentary inquiry into his family's data protection consultancy, arguing that its contracts with private companies have benefited Montenegro as premier. A heated confrontation erupted in Argentina's Congress during a debate over investigating President Javier Milei's alleged ties to a cryptocurrency scandal. Opposition parties pushed for an impeachment trial over Milei's involvement in promoting the Libra dollar crypto coin, which later crashed. Tensions escalated into a physical altercation between opposition lawmaker Oscar Zago and ruling party member Lisandro Almiron. The ruling Liberty Advances party blocked efforts to initiate the impeachment trial. Opposition lawmakers continue to push for the trial, claiming Milei's active participation in the scandal. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on this show. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer scraps bureaucratic hurdles in England's National Health Service, brings it under the Department of Health and Social Care. India hits back at Pakistan after Islamabad tries to pin blame on India over the Baloch attack on Jaffa train. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky shares the fast-breaking iftar meal with Muslim representatives in Kiev.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to the UK now. In a bid to save hundreds of millions of pounds and cut waiting lists and bureaucracy, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Thursday that he would scrap a body overseeing the state-funded health system in England. Starmer was elected in July on a promise to grow the economy and rebuild public services, including the increasingly costly National Health Service. The impact of the COVID pandemic, an aging population and a series of strikes have left patients waiting for months and sometimes years for procedures, dragging on the economy.
So today I can announce we're going to cut bureaucracy across the state, focus government on the priorities of working people, shift money to the front line. So I'm bringing management of the NHS back into democratic control by abolishing the arm's-length body NHS England. That will put the NHS back at the heart of government where it belongs, freeing it to focus on patients, less bureaucracy, with more money for nurses, an NHS refocused on cutting waiting times at your hospital.
Armenia and Azerbaijan have agreed on the text of a peace agreement to end nearly 4 decades of conflict between the South Caucasus countries. However, the timeline for signing the deal is uncertain, as Azerbaijan has said that a prerequisite for its signature is a change to Armenia's constitution, which it says makes implicit claims to its territory. Peace talks began after Azerbaijan retook Karabakh by force in September 2023, prompting almost all of the territory's 100,000 Armenians to flee to Armenia. Most now live in Armenia as refugees. The two post-Soviet countries have fought a series of wars since the late 1980s, when Nagorno-Karabakh, a region in Azerbaijan that had mostly ethnic Armenian population at the time, broke away from Azerbaijan with support from Armenia. Their 1,000-kilometer shared border is closed and heavily militarized. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed the announcement, saying that there are now no remaining obstacles to the signing of a peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which should pave the way for a lasting peace in the South Caucasus. Emergency crews in San Juan Capistrano of Southern California rescued a man whose car was trapped in fast-moving waters on Thursday. The dramatic rescue involved a helicopter lowering a rescuer to extract the man from his vehicle, which was lodged against trees in a creek. The man was clinging to a tree in the water but was safely rescued with no injuries reported. Authorities are warning the public to avoid moving water, as even small amounts can carry vehicles or people downstream. Heavy rains resulted in fatalities and infrastructure damage in northern and southern Peru. In the Apurimac region, a landslide killed a person and left several others missing, blocking 100 meters of the interoceanic highway and sweeping away vehicles. Emergency services, including police and firefighters, were dispatched to clear the areas and search for the missing. In the Puno region, torrential rains turned the streets of Julaica into rivers, while the Piura region saw destroyed homes and bridges, complicating the delivery of humanitarian aid. The Meteorological Service, Senhamhi, issued orange alerts for mountainous regions from Friday to Sunday and for southern Peru from Friday to Saturday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held a fast-breaking iftar meal with Muslim representatives in Kiev. Zelensky said that this is a tradition of respect and gratitude to the Ukrainian Muslim community and to all the people who celebrate Ramadan. Zelensky wrote on social media platform X that this year Ukraine's diplomatic efforts to bring peace have coincided with Ramadan. Zelensky also referred to the meeting between Ukrainian and American diplomatic representatives in a Muslim country that provided the platform for discussions. He also expressed hope that these international efforts will succeed and that silence in the skies, at sea and on the front lines will help bring peace closer.
We took part in an iftar. This is a good Ukrainian tradition. It is a tradition of respect for all those who celebrate Ramadan. And today, everyone who attended the iftar spoke about how important it is that prayers for peace for Ukraine will help us to defend our country, our independence, and to end this war as soon as possible and ensure security.
India hits back at Pakistan after Islamabad tries to pin the blame on India over the Baloch attack on a Jaffa train. In response to media queries on the remarks made by the Pakistani side, the official spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said, and I quote, "We strongly reject the baseless allegations made by Pakistan. The whole world knows where the epicenter of global terrorism lies. Pakistan should look inwards instead of pointing fingers and shifting the blame for its own internal problems and failures onto others." One of India's most fun and lively festivals, Holi, the festival of colours, is being celebrated in India today. The celebrations start with Holika Dahan on the night before, where bonfires are lit to symbolize the destruction of negativity and the victory of good over evil. This ritual is tied to an ancient story where Prahlad was saved from harm and evil was defeated. On the following day, the streets are filled with excitement as people throw colourful gulals at each other, dance and sing and have a great time. Everyone, young and old, joins in the fun, covering each other in beautiful bright colours, indulging in the celebration of life, unity and happiness that brings people closer. India's Border Security Force celebrated the festival of Holi, dancing to the beats of drums and smearing each other with bright coloured powders in Jaisalmer in the state of Rajasthan. The personnel also ate sweets as they celebrated the festival with their colleagues away from their families. A senior BSF official said that the force was celebrating Holi while protecting the borders. So as the nation embraces the spirit of Holi, vibrant scenes unfolded along the India-Pakistan border. The Border Security Force personnel immersed themselves in the Festival of Colours alongside local residents in the city of Amritsar, located in the Indian state of Punjab. The heartwarming visuals of camaraderie and celebration showcase the unifying power of music and traditions, fostering togetherness. On to some sports news now. Indian men's athletes dominated the snow showing events, winning multiple medals. They expressed their joy after their victory. Head of delegation Parikshat Mehdudia said that their achievements would give a big boost to the inclusion movement.
And right now I am joined by the snowshoeing team, where we won 2 medals in men's category. Vasu Tiwari won gold and Jahangir won silver medal. And I'm also joined by the delegation head of the Indian team, Parikshit Mehdudia ji. Sir, a wonderful performance by these athletes here. How you look the performance of these athletes here in these coveted games?
Yeah, these athletes are doing an amazing and a wonderful job, and they are performing greatly at the world stage. We are really very happy for them and very happy with their performance at this stage.
Vasu, you won gold. So, kitne khush hain aap?
Khush hai, happy.
Happy?
Happy.
Very happy.
Happy.
Competition कैसा था इधर?
काफी अच्छा था.
अच्छा था?
अच्छा था.
तो हरा के कितना मजा आया आपको?
First, one.
अच्छा,
first.
Also, we have with us Jahangir. He is from Kashmir. And Jahangir won silver medal in snowshoeing. Jahangir, कितना मजा आया क्यूरी में आके, यहाँ सस्त्रे में आके मेडल जीतना अपने देश के लिए?
अच्छा मजा
आया आपको?
हाँ.
कितना मजा आया?
बहुत मजा.
So how you look this thing that the Special Olympic Bharat trying to bring inclusive movement at forefront?
These athletes feel the happiness. For them, winning a medal is more than anything. It means so much to them. They've been working very hard for the last 4 years to be at this stage, and to see them perform, it's so heartwarming and wonderful.
So overall, where you look this moment in coming years?
So this moment is growing with leaps and bounds, and it is bound to grow further in India. Our President, Dr. Mallika Nadda, is making all-out effort to take inclusion to the ground level, to the school, to the education department in various schools, government schools. We are already working with the SSA in various states to bring out more athletes, to bring out more special children to these world stage and give them more opportunity and make the inclusion movement a reality in India.
The way PM Modi is just mentioning the names of these athletes, the achievement of these athletes at the platforms like Man Ki Baat and other platforms. So do you think the involvement of PM is act like a catalyst for the further promotion of these athletes, this movement?
Yes, I'm sure it is not only a catalyst for these athletes, but it is a catalyst for the people who are working for them. I think it gives them a drive, it gives them motivation, and whatever the Honorable Prime Minister speaks, it always inspires to go for people working with them to go further and to do more for them and to make inclusion a truth and be on the part of inclusion in India.
The kind of support the inclusion movement is getting, definitely in coming days we will see that it will help to bring all the people, all the special athletes under one umbrella. With camera person Narayan Singh, DD India, Turin.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. You can get all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app as well. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.